Hello, I'm Rudy Kistler, and this is one approach to painting. Today I'm going to be painting a study of these 4 autumn leaves. I'm just going to do a study of these leaves, and then I'll turn that into a painting out of my imagination, so an imaginary landscape based on these 4 leaves as a starting point. For this painting, the basic color scheme is based around yellow ochre, so all of the leaves are kind of a brownish color. In some of them, they tend more towards the red, as in the far left leaf, and then other ones it tends more towards the green. So I'm going to use yellow oxide as a base, and then I'm going to tilt that towards the green with a permanent green light. I'm going to tilt it towards the red with a magenta. And then I've got white for my tints. I'm also going to use a mixture of the permanent green light and the magenta to make a dark neutral so that I can darken all of my colors with that rather than black. And just trying to keep the palette as concise as possible, so the 3 colors with the addition of white. Let's get started. First, I'm going to mix my dark neutral with the magenta and the permanent green light. I'm just going to try to get an admixture that's neither green nor magenta and try to get somewhere in between that still remains dark. So with a 50-50 mix, you can see that it's still tending towards the red. So I'm going to need to add more green, but what I might do is just take half of this out, and then I can use this for my dark brown. Now in this mix, I've got too much green in there, so again, it's giving me a nice dark olive color, but this isn't the dark neutral that I'm after. So again, I might just move a little bit of this off to the side, and that can be my dark green. Then I'll just pull a little bit more of this dark magenta back in. See if I can get somewhere in between. So this color here is what I'm going to call my dark neutral. You can see that it's more of a brown, but really it's not magenta and it's not green. So to me it's the perfect interval between the 2 colors, and that's just going to be able to neutralize any colors that I mix with it and darken any colors that need a bit of darkening. Now I'm going to mix in with my yellow ochre and do tints of that so that I've got a wide range of colors to choose from to start my leaves. Now I'm going to mix 2 tints, one of the dark magenta and one of the dark green. And there's my light green. Now this will also just give me the opportunity to shift the temperature of the painting as well. So with the light magenta, I can shift things towards the warm, and with the light green, I can shift things towards the cool. Now let's have a look at the leaves and begin. Today I'm working on a linen support which has a clear sealer on it, and that's going to provide me with a tone to work against. Normally I like to tone it with a color, but this linen support will provide a nice kind of neutral color to work with. I've also set up the leaves on a piece of linen, so that's going to help me correlate the 2 different colors and just give me a place to start. What I'd like to do first is to actually block in the basic shape of the leaves with my darkest tone, which is my dark neutral, and that'll just allow me to formulate the composition, and then I can start to bring the colors up from dark to light. So that's the basic shape of the leaves there, minus the shadows underneath. I don't want to put the shadows in just yet because it'll obscure the shapes of the leaves, so I might put those in a bit once I've brought them up. So now the next step is to bring up each of the leaves in their own local color. So starting with the leaf on the left, it to me is more of a kind of orangish, dark yellow ochre color. And then the leaf in the back and the leaf in the front are tending more towards the yellow. And then as we get to the far right, then it starts to bring in a bit of the green. So it's basically a hue shift on the color wheel, starting at orange and then moving to yellow and then to green. So I'll just start with the left one with a little bit of my dark yellow ochre and bring that up. So just by adding a lighter tone to each of those local colors, it already gives us the feeling of leaves. And a lot of the colors are really broken, so it just naturally tends to lend themselves to the autumnal color of the dead leaves. But now I want to start bringing up the saturation, and I'm finding that the green that I added is just a little bit too broken. That far right leaf is a little bit more saturated than that. So I'm just going to put out a little bit of pure permanent green light for that. And now I might come in, after having worked with the lights, now I might come back in with some shadows, and that way I can punch some shadows underneath and make it a little bit darker, so it's a continual push and pull of light and dark to try to find my forms. There, so you can see that the dark bits that I just put in there just kind of help to sculpt the leaves into a more three-dimensional form. Now I'm finding that it really needs the shadows underneath to give it a bit of gravity. And since I've been using my dark neutral and my dark red for the leaves, I don't want to use that in the shadows, otherwise it's just going to get confused. So I might shift to the dark green. I'm going to be putting these leaves on the grass afterwards anyway, so that'll tend to harmonize it and make it look like it's sitting on the grass anyway. So you can see that the shadows help the leaves to sit down. Now I might come in and start putting in some extra light colors, some of my stronger tints to try to bring out the light. You can see that the light's gently coming from the right-hand side. It's a bit of a diffuse light rather than a strong light. And I might just try to bring that out, adding the lighter tints to the right side of the leaves. Also, starting with the left leaf, I'm realizing that it's blending in with the yellow leaves, so I might just add a bit of pure magenta to the yellow ochre to see if I can get an orange color, which will help to differentiate between the two colors. I find that this color is much more close to that color there, so I think it'll work well. I'll go ahead and put that on in the mid-tone, and then I'll add some white to a tint and bring it up. Before I shift to the tints, I'm actually noticing that around the edges of the yellow ochre leaves, they go into a brown where they're starting to dry out a bit more. And so while I've got this mid-tone orange, I might just work that into there to get that sense that it fades from the yellow ochre into the brown as it goes out. But rather than using the same one, I might mix in just a little bit of the dark magenta to change the color just a little bit. And while I'm doing that, I might as well bring up the green with a bit more saturated mid-tone before I go into the tints as well. And also I'm noticing that on the left side of the front leaf, it tends into the green towards the left side of that as well. So I might as well make note of that while I'm here. Now let's move on to the tints. Now you'll see that I'm avoiding the veins in the leaves and just using the darker colors underneath to do the line rather than coming back in with a fine liner brush to do them. I find it makes it much more effective if to do fine lines you work on either side of them to pinch them in rather than laying them on top. So you'll find that I'm just avoiding those veins, that's what I'm doing. So now that I've got my tints on, I would like to go back in with the darks. I'm going to go back in with my dark neutral and the dark magenta, and again, just trying to sculpt the leaves and add a bit more three-dimensionality to it. I'm also noticing that on the far right leaf, it's not really green so much as green in the middle and then surrounded by brown, so I'm going to really need to punch a lot of holes into that one with some browns. It's that leaf's also the one that's falling apart the most, so I want to show some sense of the cracking of that too. And now where I've left gaps for the veins, I can come back and just add a few light strokes with the dark red and it'll help to bring out those veins, but it won't be so obvious as doing it on every one of them. So now I'm just going to add some highlights on the stems of the leaves, and that will finish the study of the leaves themselves. So you can see that just by using the 3 tones for the leaves with the different colors from orange, yellow, and green, and then a bit of a dark green for the shadow underneath, can get this lovely study of the leaves. So I'm quite happy to leave this as it is, just as a study of leaves, and just an exploration of the different colors of the leaves themselves, and it makes a nice little painting on the linen. Thanks for watching. See you next time.